Everybody is on. Shots, 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 shots. Everybody!
How different is it now that you're in shape, that you don't have to worry the 3 weeks before the fight actually, getting down to weight? Because, it wasn't that long ago. Was it the Christensen fight? You were sweating it. I remember how relieved you were that you actually made weight. And that's got to be freaking stressful a couple weeks before the fight.
Yeah, it's nice now because, for example, all our training now is just to maintain. I have 2 more sparring sessions I'll do with Forrest, next Monday, next Friday. Spread them out. We'll go 5 rounds again like we did yesterday. So I basically have 10 hard rounds until the fight. The rest is just hitting pads, like you saw today, moving around, a little bit more in depth because, I won't have to have, time allowance because of the cameras and stuff. But just going over positions and stuff. And as long as you get your heart rate up every day, 145, 150 beats per minute for a half hour, I'm not going to lose conditioning. But at the same time, I don't need to try to get myself in shape. I'm in shape right now to fight tomorrow. So that's a great relief knowing that I don't have to try to, pull something out of, my hat and, and make something work. So now I can pay more attention to the important things, refining certain strategies and just actually healing and getting back. That's the one thing I never realized before is when you truly train hard for a fight, towards the end, your muscles are pretty broken down. So like right now, my lungs feel phenomenal. It's almost hard for me to get my heart rate up right now because my lungs are in such good shape. But at the same time, my muscles are kind of fatigued. So for the next 2 weeks, that's pretty much what I'm looking forward to, is getting back some of that speed and pop back into my, a little more, spring in my step,
Your striking's got a lot better over the years. Obviously, you showcased it against Nogueira. Give me an idea of what you think striking is like around the heavyweights right now, because I still kind of look at it and I think most guys rely on power, and from a technique standpoint, not real good.
Yeah, I think that's because most of them fight other heavyweights in the gym, or they just go ahead and hit the heavy bag, and they rely upon, and a lot of heavyweights too are insecure people to begin with, so they stay within their comfort zone. If a guy wrestles in college, typically you'll watch his training sessions and it looks like a college wrestling practice. If a guy, is a jiu-jitsu competitor, then that's what his practices pretty much resemble. So I think a lot of guys don't really, most of the guys that are in the heavyweight division come from a wrestling background. So they're really not working to use their striking to actually look to win fights with it. They're looking at just to go ahead and be good enough that they don't get knocked out when they're coming in for a shot. But at the same time, just kind of a real quick 1-2 and just enough to get me by. I think that's a mistake. I think striking is a phenomenal way to finish fights. I think that if you truly become a student of it, there's so much to it. I think it's one of the most. I think the reason why a lot of guys don't like to do it because it's so hard to learn. It's such an intricate thing. I mean. Every week I learn something new about some of the details that I never even realized, and I'm light years ahead in the knowledge of striking than almost everybody else I see in the heavyweight division. We break down and sit there and talk about how to do jabs. Most of the guys would look at you like, why? I can explain why one punch comes after another and where your weight should be and what punch comes after that one, where the weight should be, what's the thought process behind it, where you step, why you step, what toe hits, why is this guy, okay, his hand came low, what mistakes he making. Most of the heavyweights would think I was speaking Japanese to them, Right.
Does anything illustrate that better than what just happened the last couple of weeks with Sylvia and Arlovsky?
Yeah, I think that I think Andrei Arlovsky was a very offensive boxer. I think that he's a good athlete, threw fast hands, but he made a lot of simple, basic mistakes. If you see the fight with Brett Rogers, he walked back in a straight line, which is fundamentally incorrect. He walked with his chin straight up in the air, and he walked right into the cage. You have to have a phenomenal chin if you're going to make mistakes like that, and he doesn't have that. So, I think that if you walk backwards and walk away from Arlovsky, you're in a lot of trouble because he has great hand speed naturally. But that's the thing, a lot of heavyweights do in all aspects of their fighting is they fall back on their natural attributes physically. I guarantee Brock's fall into the same habit. His fighting style is a extension of his strength and power. If we watch how he trains to accentuate his power and strength. And I understand there's a mindset behind fighting for what your tools are, but at the same time, that kind of puts you in a pigeonhole. It's like, well, what happens if you can't get a hold of somebody? What if you can't lay on them? What if all of a sudden laying on them, it doesn't matter because he can flip his hips around and move around? What are your plan B? What is your plan C? Can you adapt? Can you move? Can you rotate? Are you versatile? If you're not, you're dead, And so I think we're seeing that, and Tim Silva's the same way. Tim, his fighting style was all decided upon the fact that he had long reach. Really was Tim that great of a boxer? He never really turned his hips on his punches. His footwork was horrendous. I thought his footwork sucked before I ever knew about footwork. I just knew something wasn't right about it. I couldn't tell you what it was. I was just like, that just looks like shit. He had a good jab, and he would look for it to land a right hand, and he was 6'8". But we see that he went against Ray Mercer, who has great boxing fundamentals, and it doesn't last 10 seconds. That's why I think a lot of these guys are making mistakes now. Like when I train jiu-jitsu, I grab Robert Drysdale, who's phenomenal at jiu-jitsu, to help me with it. I don't sit there and train with other guys who know a little bit of jiu-jitsu. That's ridiculous. And a lot of these guys in the gym, they're doing that with their boxing. They're boxing other MMA guys. It's like, well, that makes no sense, dude. You're fighting, why? You're being coached by a kickboxer on how to hold your hands. Why would a Muay Thai guy teach you how to box? Why would a freestyle fighter teach you how to box? I go to Jimmy Gifford, who's a boxing coach. He doesn't know how to choke people. He doesn't know shit about takedowns. He knows a shitload about how to throw punches and how to avoid punches and footwork. So I go to a specialist. I think that's the mistake a lot of the guys, and we're seeing is, it's like being a decathlete. You see decathletes don't go to another decathlete to learn how to throw the shot put. They go to a guy who's a throwing specialist. Then at the end of that practice, they go to a guy who's a sprinting specialist, and they go to a guy who's a long distance specialist and a hurdlist and a jumping. You have your different, and that's one thing we have to learn about our sport. It's hard to have a guy that can do everything. You have your guys that know how to put things together. But like Ken Han's my head coach. He knows a little bit about everything. He's a great Muay Thai guy, but he knows enough how to tie things together. But then once he gets into the realm of, okay, this is how we get up to our feet and we're boxing, and in steps Jimmy Gifford. Okay, now you throw the kick. If he takes you down, in steps Robert Drysdale. And that's how we work.
Let's close on this, wrapping it up with Arlovsky and Sylvia, what just happened recently. You look back, you missed time because of the accident. You were the champ. You see the way they are now. You think back and go, man, I should have been dominating, that era when those two guys were ruling. And what does it say? Does that say that that era without you, with those two guys ruling the roost, was kind of lousy based on what they've been doing lately?
No, because what they did at that moment, at that time, they were successful. That would be the equivalent of saying, well, Muhammad Ali lost the last couple fights, so was Muhammad Ali shitty? Well, no, it was towards the end of his career. He had problems. Orlovsky, who knows? You can't really define people. You have to take each fight individually for what itself, for what the training was, and who they were and where they were at the time. That's too much trying to make second guesses. But as far as do I feel that I was still the superior fighter, I felt that even before I saw those things. I felt that if I hadn't had the accident, then there would have been no issues with dominating Andre Arlovsky or Tim Silva. I did the Tim Silva fight before I got hurt. And I don't think that Andre Arlovsky would have really, if I would have been healthy and not injured, I think I would have beaten him. For the sake reason that, obviously, I can strike. I know more about submissions and grappling than he does. And at the same time, I could take a decent shot, and he can't. So if, the only times I've really been rocked from my feet, I took a knee from Brandon Vera. And I still didn't lose consciousness like how he loses consciousness. I buckled down and still tried to shoot, just, eventually just couldn't, regroup. And that was a knee to the chin. He took a right hand to the chin, which, that's hard, but trust me. If you say, Frank, you want to get punched in the face or knee in the face? I'll take 3 punches. So, that's one thing that sucks about, Andre, that's always going to be hard for him, is that anybody could take him out. They just close their eyes and swing, and they catch him, they can go to sleep,